everyone, I am Mary and this is Athena's Bibliotheca. One of the things that I want to get back into that I used to do so much when I was younger and I don't do it as often, and that's rereading book series. When Empire of Storms came out, I reread the rest of the series before I read Empire of Storms for the first time. Stuff like that. I used to do that all the time. And I don't really do that very often anymore. I wanted to try to make that a goal of 2024 to reread more. This is just the list of the books that are the most likely to be reread this year. I know for certain that not all of these books are going to be reread. Like, that's not, I just know myself, and that's not going to happen. As much as I wish it would. I have kind of sorted the books that I want to reread into categories. So we're just gonna go by those categories I sorted them into. Hopefully that makes sense. The first category I want to talk about are books that I want to reread so I can finish the series that they're part of. Basically, I forgot everything that happens in these books, so I need to reread them so I can finish the series, or I just want to reread them to finish the series. The first book I want to talk to you about is actually a book that is on my January TBR to reread, but I'm not 100% convinced that's going to happen. And that book is Splintered by A.G. Howard, and this book is a Alice in Wonderland retelling. I just remember really enjoying this book, and then I never picked up the sequel. I own the sequels now. I just have not continued the series. So I want to reread this so I can remember the things that happened. Before I continue, also my brother, he's been getting into reading the past year or so, couple years maybe, and he read this and he was like, Mary, you need to read it. And I'm just like, I read the first one. So I do want to get to this, and so it's on this list. Hopefully it gets read since it's on my TBR for January, but we'll see how that goes. Oh, and by the way, these aren't in any particular order. They're just in the categories in whichever book I pick up first. Like, it's not based on which ones I want to read more in the category or anything. It's just how I put it on the list. The next book is The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Cabetta. I actually read this in a video I posted before I came back. I don't know if anyone knows this, but I used to do videos before. So the last video I posted in like 2020, I read this for the first time, and I really enjoyed it at the time, but my memory of what went down in this story, absolutely zero. I don't know a single thing that happened, except that I know that I liked it. It was good. Knowledge, zero. And it's also another one that I have the sequel for. This is another one I want to reread so I can continue. It's a duology. I only have to read 2 books to finish this. The next book I want to reread is All Fall Down by Allie Carter. If you watched my best books of the year, you know how much I adore Allie Carter. Her newest book last year went on my best books of 2023, so I love her. Do I remember a lot about this book? Enough that I feel confident going into the sequel? No, not really. I don't know how to say things for this one because it's really easy to spoil the story, and the twist at the end caught me off guard, I remember, when I first read it, and I was unsure about how I liked it when I first read it, and I'm still unsure, but that is mostly because I don't really fully remember what went down, so I do want to reread this so that I can then pick up the sequel that I already own. One of these days, it will happen. The next book I want to reread so I can remember what went down in it and finish this series is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I see a lot of people disliking this trilogy lately, but I just remember really enjoying myself when I read this, and also liking the main guy character, even though that is not the thing that people like. Not the Darkling. I don't like the Darkling, which is the unpopular opinion in this thing. I like the Darkling as a character, but not as someone to ship with Elena. Like, I don't like it. But I like him as a character. I find him interesting, like how I find Bellatrix Lestrange interesting. This is not supposed to be me talking about how my feelings on the Darkling. Obviously, I remember more about this story than most. I probably could finish the trilogy without rereading it, but I feel like in my heart that I should finish this book. This also, I want to reread so that I could do the King of Scars duology. I know that one of the characters in that trilogy is in this story quite a lot, so I want to finish it out so I know more of the background of the character before I start it. So also another reason why I want to finish this trilogy by rereading this first. The last book, and in this case series, I want to reread to finish another series is The Raven Boys, or The Raven Cycle, I guess. And I want to reread this so I can finally get to the Dreamers trilogy. I haven't reread this series in so long, and I adore this series, so it wouldn't be anything off my back to do that, to sacrifice my time and reread this amazing series so I can get to the Dreamer trilogy. I just gotta do it first. I've heard some people say that you don't really have to reread the series, but in my head and in my heart, you really do. So once again, have to finish rereading this so I can reread the Dreamer trilogy. I gotta reread this to read the Dreamer trilogy for the first time. The next category I have includes just 2 books, and these are books I want to reread just to see if I enjoy them as much as I used to, or like when I did when I first read them. I'll explain why I think I might not when I get to the book. The first book I want to talk to you about is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This book is actually one that I've reread several times since first reading it. My hesitance about whether I would like it or not, I don't know. I don't know if it would hold up as much upon rereading it now. And I can't even tell you why that is or why I think that is. Because when I used to mention my top favorite books, this is one of the books that I would mention. But now I'm kind of hesitant to say that. And I think that's mainly because it's been a while since I reread it. So I want to give it another reread just to see if my thoughts and opinions have changed at all. I really hope they haven't because I adored this story, but I want to give it a reread anyway. The other book in this category I have is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armes. I loved this story so much when I first read it. It was so fun. I enjoyed myself. I loved the banter. It was one of the first books I was starting to read when I was dipping my toes into adult romance. So that kind of makes me think that might not hold up as much now. Not that I've read much more adult romance. I mean, I've read quite a lot, but they're on the darker side and not so much light and fluffy. I don't know what that says about me, but... And I also distinctly remember finding that there's like a conflict at the end, but like the last 50 pages of the end that I thought came out of nowhere, and like it just felt really shoehorned in, even when I read it the first time. But I was like, oh my word, I love it so much, 5 stars. But I really don't think it would be 5 stars if I reread it. Once again, I hope I'm wrong, because I adored this story when I first read it, and I hope it holds up whenever I get around to rereading it. This next category I just labeled Special Reason for this one book, and that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Apparently, I should have just said I want to read the whole Grishaverse this year, because that's apparently what it's looking like. But I just reread Six of Crows in December, so I obviously want to continue my reread with Crooked Kingdom, because if you know how Six of Crows ends, you know that you want to read Crooked Kingdom as soon as possible. That's just how it is. I'm not as in a hurry as I was when I first read Six of Crows, because I've already read Crooked Kingdom and I know what goes down in here, but I am super excited to get to this reread. Out of all the books that I have put on this list, this is the one that is most definitely going to be reread. Even if I don't get to Shadow and Bone and reread that book and finish the trilogy, I'll still most likely have reread this series by the end of this year. The last grouping of books kind of have a bunch of a lot of reasons why I want to reread them, or like a lot of different reasons. So I just put all of these books under the category just because. And if they have more reasons, I'll explain their reasoning more in depth when I get to the book. Like I have been this whole video. So I don't know why I continue to explain that in each category setup. The first book I want to talk about is Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor by Jiran J. Zhao. I love this series. If you like Percy Jackson, I think you'd like this book. The way that the publisher markets this book and the author markets this book is that they say it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Meets Percy Jackson, which I think is fine. Those both. Like if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! And you like Percy Jackson, you will like this book. But this is going to be a long shot because I don't feel like a lot of people know what this show is. But if you've ever seen that show, Chaotic, I'll leave some pictures up here of what Chaotic was. If you've ever seen that show, I think that show mixed with Percy Jackson is even more accurate to what is happening in this world. It's just great and I loved it. It was my favorite book for, I want to say 2022. So I just want to reread it just because it's amazing and I love it. And I want to have that enjoyment in my life again. So it's on this list. Another book I want to reread, and this was actually my favorite book for 2023, is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, because I love this book so very much. It's precious and deserves every bit of praise that it receives and none of the criticism. It's amazing, and I want to relive all of the goodness that happened when I was reading A Dowry of Blood. I mean, obviously, it's about an abusive relationship, so those things aren't happy, but I enjoyed my time reading it, so that's what I want to re-experience. So once again, I just want to read it. Again. The next one on my list is Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon's amazing, and I love her a lot. And I got this fancy new edition for Christmas, so I want to reread it. I know I at least want to reread this volume. If I can I'll probably easily persuaded to read the rest of them whenever I get to this, but for sure this one specifically, because I got this fancy new edition and I want to enjoy the Sailor Moon world once again. The next book on this list is also another manga, and I watched the 2019 version of the anime, and it's made me really want to reread the series, and that is Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. This series is precious to me. I love it so very much. It's amazing. And if you don't love it, I would like to protect my peace, so don't tell me. It's the nostalgia in me that adores it. Plus, it's just such a good story. Does it kind of not make sense? And you're like wondering why in the world does this exist? Yes, you do. But I'm happy it does. The next books that I want to talk about wanting to reread is a whole series, and that is the Gallagher series by Ally Carter. Just rereading all of Ally Carter's backlist almost. You know, how you do. This is the series, I'm just gonna hold up the first one. This is the series that I was saying I thought of when I was reading Ally Carter's new book, The Blonde Identity, because it's a book about a girl that goes to school to become a spy, and it's great, and I love it a lot. To be honest though, I have reread some of the books several times, but I've always skipped the first two books because the first two books cover a lot of boy drama that I could care less about. And the third book is where it gets really good, and I love the third book on. Great, amazing, love them. I really want to reread the whole series. And the reason for that is the new additions for the series. Because each of these books, they have an extra chapter that Ally Carter wrote for these editions specifically. And I want to know what's in those additional chapters. It took me, this is what the first cover looks like. It took me a second I don't really care for these covers that much. They've grown on me, but they're also not that amazing either. I like the original ones better, but it's really the extra chapter that makes me want to reread it. But I'm not upset about a reread of the series because I really do enjoy it. It's just the first two books in the series that I might not enjoy as much as the rest. I still like them, just not as much. So for the next one, I'm not going to hold up the whole series. I'm just going to hold up the first one because it'd be so heavy to hold up all of them. But the next series I want to reread is the Stay a Spell series by Juliet Cross. These are just cute, fun paranormal romances, and I love them. The first one is so good. I mean, all of them. I loved all of them. There is plenty of reason for me to want to reread this series. The main reason I want to reread it is because of the special editions Juliet Cross released. They're just so pretty, and the end pages and the overlays really make me want to reread the series. And any reason for me to revisit the Savoy Sisters is a plus in my book. And finally, I want to reread the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. If you watch my wrap-ups, you know that I actually reread The Lightning Thief in December, and I loved it. And I was actually going to make a video on it, but that didn't end up happening because I didn't like the footage that I ended up having, so I kind of just scrapped the idea. But I really want to make a Percy Jackson series reading vlog, and so I really want to reread the whole thing in a video. So will that happen? I don't know, but I really wanted to because what I envision in my head, masterpiece. What actually comes out on film, we'll never know. Hopefully though, it will eventually happen and I'll be able to post a vlog of me rereading this series because it's precious to me and I love it with my whole heart. So there you go, the final book on this list of rereads, or books in this case. That was a lot of books that I just talked about rereading. As you can tell, I don't expect me to reread all of these books this year. These are just the ones that are most likely to be reread. If I pick up something to reread, it will be one of these books. And if I don't reread one of these books this year, don't come at me. I'm a work in progress. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and all the books that I was gushing about and wanting to reread because they're so amazing, or I just completely forgot about what was happening in those stories, so I should have a reread. Happens to us all, or at least it does to me. I'll read a book and like a couple hours after I finish it, I'm like, what was the book about? So that is everything I have for you today. I hope to see you next week, but I make no promises. Bye! Is oh my fudge, it's not even that hard of a word to say, Mary. The next Cali words, don't know them.